what they're trying to do. Now, when it comes to climate change and COVID, I see two striking similarities besides a lot. But when it comes to getting sick and environmentalism, I don't think it's fake. I don't think it's not a thing. But when they talk about, health, public health, here's two things they never talk about. And I talk about it here all the time. They never talk about diet. They never talk about exercise. They never talk about nutrition. They never talk about getting out in the sunlight. They don't never talk about, the benefit to sports and human interaction. In fact, when they talked about COVID-19, they did the opposite of that. They closed down gyms. They closed down restaurants. They closed down concerts. They closed down jobs. They closed down people's purpose. They didn't allow elderly people to exercise as much. I mean, if you were trying to kill people, I would think that was would be how you do it. And I'm not, I'm saying what I'm saying. Just listen to what I'm saying. It's like they're taking away everything healthy. Stay inside, quarantine, don't go in the sun, don't play sports, don't exercise, don't see your family. Are you trying to murder people, or are you just an idiot? Like, either you're purposely doing that or you're really dumb. There is no other thing. Like, they're not helping your health. You get what I'm saying? It's a full scale. If you run a country, you can't just worry about one thing and ignore 50 things. You got to look at the full scope. And if you make a huge decision that impacts human freedom unlike it ever has, you have to weigh out the other 30. If you don't, you're a terrible leader. You're a horrible person. So that's what they are. So when you talk about public health under COVID, some things they never talk about is diet and exercise. How are you going to solve public health when you're not talking about two root level problems? They're not. They're making everything worse. I don't understand how people don't realize this. And when it comes to climate change, there's two things that you'll very rarely, I'm not going to say never, but very rarely hear them talk about. One of them is the sun. If you've ever heard of the sun, it's that thing in the sky that heats us all up. When it comes to the equation of how hot or cold the planet is, especially on the whole scale, you can't do it without the sun. The sun is everything. That's why people in the past used to pray to it like a god, because it heats our planet. So they never talk about the sun, which is the thing in the equation that is literally the most important heat source that's out of our control, as far as we all know. And they also never talk about planting trees. You very rarely hear them talk about, well, we have too much carbon. So there's something called a tree that really, it sucks up oxygen and it spits out, it sucks up a carbon and it spits out oxygen. Trees are amazing. Humans are amazing. Trees and humans have this perfect relationship where we breathe in, they breathe out. They breathe out, we breathe in. It's a beautiful thing. I love trees. That's why some people say, Anomaly, you look like a hippie. I'm a traditional hippie. You might see me hugging a tree, body surfing in the ocean at 9 o'clock. I'm that type of hippie. I'm not like a commie, let me steal your money and take your guns type hippie. I'm like I want to give a tree a hug because I appreciate oxygen type hippie. So they never talk about that. And it's the same with COVID. It's so simple that you almost think it's wrong. You're like, well, no, it's got to be a bigger issue. Of course it is. On a planet scale, there's a lot of carbon, there's a lot of oxygen, et cetera. There's a lot of noble gases. But it is that simple where you're like, well, what if we planted 1 trillion trees? Would that solve it? They have machines now. They don't even need them, but they have machines that actually suck out carbon and spit out oxygen. There's innovation, inventions. There's ways to solve these crises that way. They don't want to solve the crisis, though. It's the same thing with COVID-19. They really relate in the sense of there's a way to make people healthier. They don't want to do it. There's a way to really boost people's immune system, get all the vitamins you need, be as strong as you can, make sure your body has, less fat, more muscles, so you're able to, live longer, et cetera. There's ways to really combat this on a scale to live longer and be healthier. They don't want to do it. And it's the same with climate change, because if they solve the issue, then the whole thing runs away. And same with, it's like they want this to just linger over your head, so they have an excuse for the next 100 years to treat you like a slave, an animal, and a peasant. They